ambient sound of waves early morning at sea. On a quiet stretch of ocean where the horizon feels endless and the water looks calm enough to forget the tensions beneath it, something extraordinary is happening. Not with explosions or flags or shouting voices, but with drills, data, and discoveries that could quietly reshape the future of an entire nation. This is a story about the Philippines, about energy, sovereignty, livelihoods, and the kind of economic turning point that doesn't arrive with fireworks, but with persistence. And it's also a story about why this discovery matters so much that one of the world's biggest powers doesn't want to let it go. For decades, the Philippines has lived with a simple reality. Energy is expensive, and dependence is risky. The country imports most of its fuel. Every spike in global oil prices ripples through transport costs, food prices, electricity bills, and household budgets. For ordinary Filipinos, that means tighter margins and fewer choices. For the government, it means vulnerability. Now imagine discovering a domestic source of energy so significant that it could change that equation. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily, structurally, and for the long term. That's what this discovery represents. In the waters west of Palawan, in areas internationally recognized as part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, surveys and exploratory operations have pointed to massive reserves of oil and natural gas. Not rumors, not guesses. Data-backed estimates that rival some of Southeast Asia's most productive fields. For context, the Malampaya gas field, long considered a national lifeline, has powered Luzon for years. It reduced blackouts, stabilized energy prices, and saved the country billions in fuel imports. But Malampaya is declining. Everyone in government knows it. Everyone in the energy sector knows it. The question has always been, what comes next? This discovery may be the answer. If developed responsibly, these reserves could fuel power plants, industries, and future infrastructure for decades. That means cheaper electricity, more reliable power, more attractive conditions for manufacturing, data centers, and high-energy industries that currently hesitate to invest. Energy security is economic security. When power is stable and affordable, factories run longer. Businesses plan further ahead. Investors see less risk. Jobs multiply quietly, not in headlines, but in payrolls. And it doesn't stop at energy. Development brings ports, logistics hubs, ship maintenance, engineering services, environmental monitoring, safety systems, and thousands of skilled and semi-skilled jobs. Filipino engineers, technicians, welders, seafarers, researchers, and support workers no longer have to leave the country to find this kind of work. Communities feel it first. Roads improve. Schools receive funding. Local businesses grow around new economic activity. Fisherfolk gain alternative livelihoods during off-seasons. Provincial economies that were once peripheral become central. This is how discoveries boost economies. Not through one big moment, but through thousands of small compounding changes. So why the tension? Because the discovery sits in one of the most contested regions on Earth. China's claims in the South China Sea overlap with the Philippines' internationally recognized maritime rights. Despite a 2016 arbitral ruling that invalidated China's expansive claims, enforcement remains a challenge. Power, not law, often dictates behavior at sea. When resources enter the picture, the stakes rise. Energy isn't just about profit. It's about leverage. Whoever controls supply influences markets, politics, and regional balance. For China, already the world's largest energy importer, securing nearby sources reduces dependency on vulnerable shipping routes. For the Philippines, controlling its own resources means independence. That's why this discovery isn't just geological, it's geopolitical. Pressure doesn't always come as open conflict. Sometimes it comes as diplomatic stalling. Sometimes as joint development proposals that sound cooperative but quietly dilute sovereignty. Sometimes as the presence of ships, Coast Guard patrols, or survey vessels that signal without words that someone else wants a say. But here's the crucial difference. This time, the Philippines isn't just reacting. Public awareness has grown. The economic implications are clearer. Partnerships with allies are stronger. Legal foundations are firmer. And perhaps most importantly, Filipinos are asking better questions. Why should a country rich in resources remain poor in outcomes? Why should energy found in Philippine waters benefit anyone else first? Why should future generations inherit dependence instead of opportunity? These questions are no longer academic. They're personal. For a tricycle driver paying more for fuel than he earns in a day. For a factory worker whose overtime disappears when electricity prices rise. For a student whose school can't afford air conditioning or computers. For a small business owner choosing between paying rent and paying the electric bill. Energy touches everything. If developed properly, this discovery could shave significant percentages off national import bills. That frees government funds for healthcare, education, disaster resilience, and infrastructure. It strengthens the peso. It stabilizes inflation. It cushions the economy against global shocks. And in a world where uncertainty is the norm, stability is priceless. But development isn't automatic. It requires courage. There are environmental concerns, and rightly so. The Philippines is one of the most biodiversity-rich countries on the planet. Any extraction must be done with strict safeguards, transparency, and accountability. Short-term gain at the cost of long-term damage would defeat the purpose. The challenge is balance. Development without destruction. Growth without exploitation. Sovereignty without provocation. That balance is difficult, but not impossible. Other countries have done it. Norway did it by building institutions before profits. Malaysia did it by reinvesting energy revenues into national development. The Philippines can do it by learning from both successes and mistakes. What makes this moment different is timing. Global energy markets are shifting. Natural gas is seen as a transition fuel. Renewables are growing, but still need baseload support. Countries that secure energy now will have more flexibility later. At the same time, regional alliances are deepening. Infrastructure funding, technology sharing, and defense cooperation all intersect with energy security. When a country can say, "We can power ourselves," its voice carries more weight. That's why China is paying attention, not because of headlines, but because of trajectories. A Philippines with energy independence is a Philippines with stronger negotiating power. A Philippines less reliant on imports is a Philippines less vulnerable to pressure. A Philippines that controls its resources is a Philippines that can say no. And saying no sometimes is the most powerful economic move of all. This discovery doesn't guarantee prosperity. No discovery ever does. But it creates possibility. And possibility, when paired with good governance and public vigilance, becomes momentum. The story is still being written. Drills have only begun. Data is still being analyzed. Policies are still debated. But the direction is clear. Beneath the calm surface of the West Philippine Sea lies more than fuel. There lies a chance to redefine what economic growth looks like for a nation that has waited a long time for its turn. The question now isn't whether this discovery can boost the Philippine economy. It's whether the country will fully claim what it has found, protect it wisely, and use it not just to grow richer, but to grow stronger, fairer, and more independent than ever before. Sound of waves fades out.